It is Wednesday and we're back with another episode of Bothered. Thank you so much to everyone who's subscribed, liked, followed, all of that kind of stuff. Remember that we're a video podcast if you can't see me right now on Spotify and importantly YouTube. So please go on there. I am so angry about this episode. I'm sorry about all of the emotions if that bother you. But if it bothers you, you would not be a fan of this podcast. Ugh. Enjoy. Hello, it's me, Julie Kim. Welcome to Bothered, my little podcast about being bothered. Every week I share short stories.
Living like this, I might lose it.
They're mostly real situations that have happened to me. You wouldn't believe some of them, or maybe you would. Maybe you can relate.
Living like this, I might lose it.
So I have a child, which means that at one time I was pregnant. And here's the story. When a man and a woman, no, I'm just kidding. When a woman and her sperm donor and their fertility doctor, no, I'm just kidding. In any set of circumstances that can lead up to a baby, you have a baby. So we had a baby. That's it. That's where I start the story. We were pregnant and we went to our GP who we like very, very much. And we said, "Doctor, can you confirm that we are pregnant?" And then he had me pee on a stick privately and then confirmed indeed that we were pregnant. So what a blessing. The next thing that he did was refer us to an obstetrician because he said, I don't do that. So he referred us to an obstetrician, and like with a lot of referrals, the person that he referred us to was kind of his choosing. He told us about this lovely female obstetrician that he has known for a long time, that he trusts. He thought we would really like her. So fantastic. We were referred and we were very excited, my husband and I. My husband and I always went to these appointments together because we did. And the baby was a, collaboration. So we went to our first appointment kind of excited really to meet our obstetrician. We got there and the reception desk was handled by two receptionists that were just sitting there. It's kind of funny just because, look, it's not like as a receptionist, you have to be like a host at a restaurant, greeting you, taking your coat or whatever. But there were two women here at the reception desk and they did not give a shit about anything. They barely looked up. They each had two monitors. They waited for us to approach and say the first words. And then they didn't even look up. They just eyes kind of went up. It was kind of like in Tim Allen's Home Improvement where you only see the eyes of the neighbor whose name was... The neighbor whose name was, don't tell me, Wilson, the neighbor. And the receptionist did not even crook their necks a little bit. They just were there and they typed their thing and they told us to wait. And then it was our time to go in to see our doctor. And the doctor was actually very well-dressed, nice enough lady. She wasn't even wearing a lab coat, very fancy, reminded me of an episode of the Mindy Project. I thought, oh, this is kind of cool. I was a little disappointed because we had been told that our obstetrician would have an ultrasound, so we'd be able to at least see the beginnings of our little baby. But the doctor told us that unfortunately they actually only have a Doppler that would only allow us to hear the baby. So I was like, yeah, cool. We'll just take your word for it that this sounds like a healthy baby. So a little disappointing. The more interesting thing was that only part way through our appointment near the end did that doctor tell us that she was in fact not our doctor. She was a substitute doctor because our doctor happened to be away on vacation or something. So we're like, okay, that's not the most abnormal thing. Maybe next time we come for our appointment, we can now look forward to seeing our new obstetrician. So a few weeks later, we went in for our second appointment, excited again to meet our new obstetrician for the first time. We go in, the two medical office assistants have not changed at all. They are apathetic. They are not giving a shit about us, and they told us to sit, and we did. My husband and I sat in that waiting room for over 2 fucking hours. I'm not even exaggerating. We couldn't believe it. We weren't like acting up or out or anything, but we just obviously wondered if there was a problem. So I think, maybe every 45 minutes, which is reasonable, we just asked if they remembered that we existed, and they said, yes, they're running behind. So finally we are called in no less than 2 hours after we have arrived on time for our appointment, and we go in to wait for the obstetrician, who then comes in, and she's all flustered and she's rushed, and she goes, "What a busy day. I'm covering for 2 other doctors today. They are away." And I said, "Oh, you knew in advance that you were covering for 2 doctors? Do you guys ever call?" I said this in the nicest way, okay? I'm not saying it now in a nice way because it is impossible, and you'll see why. I said, "Oh, if they let us know, we would have come later." Later, but still on time, or still early, but we wouldn't have sat there for over 2 hours. This is all in my head. But the words that I said out loud were, "Oh, they didn't tell us that you were going to be so behind." And she goes, "Yeah, we don't do that." So they just expect us to come on time. They charge, or they threaten to charge patients when they don't show up or when they're very late, but they never do that for the actual doctor. And I get it. Healthcare, such a privilege to have, such a blessing. And all of that. But I feel like this treads into the territory of treating people like they have no fucking dignity. Let's just get the patients to come in and wait and be uncomfortable, and we'll get to them when we get to them. And let's leave out details like we are 2 doctors behind, 2 doctors worth behind the whole morning, and you have 0 chance of being seen 2 hours after you come into your appointment. No, they did not think of us as humans who had value or whose time had value, and they just made us wait there. Okay. So anyways, she's in, and then she starts reviewing the chart because she had not taken 1 minute to review our chart. And I'm not necessarily a healthcare expert, like most of us are not experts, but I do know that I very much appreciate when a doctor comes in, having done a little bit of homework, having reviewed even half a page of notes or skimmed them, so they know generally what's going on. I mean, it was an obstetrician's appointment. She knew I was pregnant, but it would have been nice for her not to ask us questions that we were asked the first time around as she caught up reading her notes. So she hadn't reviewed, and I let her know that I would be choosing a C-section, and she said, "Yeah, we'll talk about that." And then she moved forward as if I didn't have free will or choice. And then I noticed that she was pregnant, and I said, "When are you due?" And she said, "Oh, around the same time as you." I said, "Oh, that's nice. Do you think that you'll be at my birth?" And she goes, "Oh, no." She literally said it like that. She laughed off the notion that she would be my actual doctor all the way through. And I get how it works when you're in a practice and people cover for each other. But my preference would have been to have some chance, that even a small proportion of a chance, that the doctor that I was seeing that was following me for 9 months would also be there at my birth. So that was that. And then I also shared that I had some nausea, and I will share with you that 2 things I used to deal with nausea, and that is diclectin and bagels, okay? And she could control one of those things, so I asked for a prescription of an anti-nausea drug for pregnant ladies called diclectin. And you know what she said to me? Do you know what she said to me? She said, "Oh, could you come back at the end of the day for that?" She wanted me to come back at the end of the day for a prescription. And I looked at her, and then I looked at the prescription pad to her right on the table, and I said, "No, we can't come back at the end of the day." And then, annoyed, she kind of pouted and she grabbed the thing. She goes, "Okay." And then she wrote out the prescription in probably 10 to 12 seconds. And then she handed us the prescription. And then we left. And it is at that moment that I decided that bitch is going nowhere near my vagina. We were absolutely going to look for a new obstetrician. I mean, everything was off. The MOAs at the front, her fucking attitude, their lack of just like common respect for us. I understand being a little bit late. It is okay. I go to a busy healthcare practice. I don't mind waiting 20 minutes or 30 minutes. If it's a little more and I've got, the time, that is okay. Making me wait for 2 hours when you knew you would be pretty much that much delayed is fucking disgusting. So my husband and I went back to see our GP, and we said, we would like you to refer us to another obstetrician, please. And he said, really? I'm so surprised. She's highly recommended, and I've known her for a long time. And then we told him very objectively and without emotion. No, I don't think it was without emotion. I cannot do this without emotion. But I told him flatly and plainly what had happened. And then he said, yeah, I'll get you a new obstetrician. And I had one in mind because I happen to have a lot of girlfriends who are very smart and educated, and most of all, who have had babies before me. And it really pays off to have friends who do their market research or know what to look for, especially when they have similar sensibilities as you. A lot of my girlfriends also work a lot and are educated and have had C-sections because it's faster. So one of my girlfriends recommended her obstetrician, who is an absolute fucking pro and leaves 0 scars. And I requested an obstetrician by name and ended up with that obstetrician. And this is not a male-female thing. This is not a thing where I would ever discriminate against somebody for being pregnant. But this woman was a fucking shit show, and she did not respect me. And the obstetrician we went to had been doing it for multiple decades. He was this old, kind of flashy looking guy. He looked more like an investment banker, I have to say. I imagine he has a boat. I don't even know if he has a boat. All that means to me when I look at him and his tassels on his Hermes shoes and the cherry red Porsche that he had at the time, all I deduce from that is that he has been doing this for a very long time without getting canceled. So I thought, you know what, this is the doctor for me. And also I couldn't go bouncing around a lot. And so he was the obstetrician that we chose, and everything went fucking perfectly. Even the receptionist at his practice was so amazing. And I don't need a lot of cuddles and hugs. I never got that growing up. I don't expect any of it. But God, that lady, whatever her name was so nice. And she was a pleasure to see every time. And you know what? I do believe that is at least qualitatively part of what somebody should do as a receptionist. But I also know from working at various organizations that it is a part of office culture. Maybe those other MOAs at that lady's practice were like that because their culture fucking sucks, okay? But this new doctor who I got, Dr. Porsche, amazing. His MOA, fucking amazing. And we loved him and her very, very much. And going back to that other doctor, God, that bothered me so much. What did I do? I didn't leave a bad rating at all. Here's the kind of petty thing that I did. I knew leaving that office that day that I would never be back. I knew that they didn't value my time, so I wanted to not value their time. So I made my subsequent appointment, and then I simply ignored the reminder call where they were inquiring about my whereabouts. And then I fucking ghosted them because I wanted to inconvenience them just a little bit. And let me say, you might think, oh no, another patient could have taken that spot. No, they were not scheduling effectively. There was no fucking method to their madness. This affected almost nobody else. I don't think this affected anybody but those fucking bitchy MOAs and a little bit that doctor who didn't get to bill an extra appointment that day. I did nothing else other than that. I didn't send a scathing email. I didn't go back to approach that doctor. I didn't even leave a rating. I didn't go to like Rate My MD or whatever it is to say anything because whatever. What's the use? I don't give a shit, okay? But this is my rating. This podcast episode, sorry for getting so emotional. This podcast episode is my rating, and my official rating is 0 out of 5. You fucking suck. I hope your twins are well, but I hope you are not. Thank you again for listening to this week's episode of Bothered. Check in next Wednesday when we have our next episode, because we are weekly. Please remember to like, subscribe, follow, and comment. And if you email me, I will email you back. I am going to get on top of my emails. It's bothered@juliekimcomedy.com. More announcements are coming, but for now, oh my gosh, it is the dead of summer. It is so hot. I have to go. Please keep cool. Thanks so much. Bye.
Living like this, I might lose it.